We live in an era obsessed with optimization. We buy planners to manage our time, we take supplements to manage our health, and we download apps to manage our attention. We are constantly trying to squeeze more productivity out of every single hour, convinced that if we just work a little harder, hustle a little faster, and acquire a little more, we will finally feel at peace. But what if this relentless pursuit of more is exactly what is keeping us miserable? What if the secret to a life of profound tranquility, unbreakable resilience, and true freedom isn't found in adding more to your plate, but in radically subtracting from it? To find the answer, we must travel back 2,000 years, to the chaotic, corrupt, and blood-soaked heart of the Roman Empire. The year is roughly 60 AD. The emperor is Nero, a man whose name would become synonymous with madness, tyranny, and cruelty. And sitting right next to him, acting as his chief advisor, his speechwriter, and his closest confidant, is a man named Lucius Annaeus Seneca. Seneca was not a poor monk living in a cave, detached from the world. He was the wealthiest man in Rome. He owned vast estates across the Mediterranean, he had thousands of slaves, he lent money at high interest rates, and he dined with the most powerful people on earth. He was, in many ways, the Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos of the ancient world. Yet, despite having everything the modern world tells us to chase, Seneca realized a terrifying truth: external success means absolutely nothing if your mind is a battlefield. Living in the court of Nero was like living in the eye of a hurricane. One wrong word, one misinterpreted glance, and you could be exiled, stripped of your wealth, or executed. To keep himself sane in a world of absolute madness, and to guide his younger friend, Lucilius, through the complexities of life, Seneca began writing a series of private letters. These letters, 124 in total, were later compiled into what we now know as letters from a Stoic, or moral letters to Lucilius. These are not dry, academic philosophy lectures. They are raw, practical, and deeply human. They are the ultimate survival guide for the human mind. Today, we are going to dive deep into this masterpiece. We will uncover the ancient secrets Seneca used to master his time, conquer his anxiety, handle his immense wealth, and build an unbreakable mind in the face of absolute chaos. The first and perhaps most urgent secret Seneca shares is found in his very first letter. It is the mastery of time. Seneca opens the book with a piercing observation: while we are postponing, life speeds by. We tend to think of death as something that happens at the end of a long life. We treat it as a distant event on the horizon. But Seneca argues that death is not a future event, it is a present reality. Every hour that passes is an hour that is gone forever. You are dying right now, with every breath you take. The time you have is not just running out, it is actively being spent. Seneca points out a tragic, universal flaw in human nature. We are incredibly stingy with our money, but we are recklessly generous with our time. If someone tries to steal $100 from your wallet, you will call the police. You will fight them. You will be outraged. But if someone asks for just 5 minutes of your time to gossip, to scroll through social media, or to engage in a trivial argument, you give it away without a second thought. Seneca's radical advice is this: you must guard your time more fiercely than your money. Time is the only resource you can never get back. To master this, Seneca introduces a powerful daily practice that he used himself: the evening review. Every single night, before going to sleep, Seneca would sit in the dark and review his entire day. He would act as his own judge. He would ask himself, what did I do today? Where did I waste my time? What did I do well, and what could I have done better? By holding himself accountable every single night, he ensured that he was not just living, but actually paying attention to his life. He refused to let a single day slip by on autopilot. Imagine if you did this tonight. Imagine sitting in your room, turning off your phone, and asking yourself, did I waste my time today? Did I let a screen dictate my mood? Did I say yes to something I didn't want to do just to be polite? Seneca tells Lucilius to ruthlessly eliminate the trivial. Stop living as if you have 1,000 years to live. Wake up. The time you have is short, and it is slipping away through your fingers like sand. If you can master your time, you master your life. Once you realize the brevity of life, you must confront the second great thief of human happiness, anxiety. Seneca observed that human beings have a unique, almost comical ability to torture themselves. Animals only suffer when they are in actual, immediate physical pain. A lion does not lie awake at night worrying about the economy, or stressing about what the other lions think of his mane. But humans? We suffer over things that haven't happened yet, and might never happen. Seneca famously wrote one of the most profound sentences in the history of psychology: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Anxiety is the act of borrowing trouble from tomorrow. We sit in our comfortable homes, safe and fed, yet our minds are racing with catastrophic scenarios. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if my partner leaves me? What if they find out I'm a fraud? Seneca teaches that this is a profound misuse of your cognitive energy. You are fighting phantoms in your mind. To combat this, he introduces a powerful psychological tool called premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils. Most modern self-help gurus tell you to visualize success. They tell you to create a vision board and manifest your dreams. Seneca says that is dangerous, because when reality inevitably deviates from your perfect vision, you will be crushed. Instead, the Stoic actively visualizes the worst-case scenario. Let's apply this to a modern example. Imagine you are terrified of losing your job. Instead of pushing that fear away, Seneca says, sit down and look it in the eye. Visualize it. Imagine your boss calling you into the office and firing you. Imagine packing up your desk. Imagine telling your family. Imagine the financial stress. But then, take the next step. Ask yourself, would I survive this? Yes. You would update your resume. You would call a friend. You would cut your expenses. You would find another job. By vividly imagining the worst-case scenario and realizing that you have the resilience to survive it, you strip the fear of its power. As Seneca says, the man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. Stop suffering twice. The first time is in your imagination, and the second time is if the event actually happens. Deal with the present moment. If a problem arises, you will handle it then. But do not let your imagination hold you hostage today. But what about wealth? We know Seneca was a billionaire in Roman currency. Does Stoicism demand that you give it all away and live in poverty? No. Seneca argues that wealth itself is neither good nor bad, it is what he calls a preferred indifferent. It is nice to have, but it is not required for a good life. The danger is not in having money, the danger is in letting money have you. Seneca warns that luxury and excessive comfort actually weaken the mind and the spirit. When you become accustomed to silk sheets, gourmet food, air-conditioned rooms, and constant digital entertainment, you become a slave to those comforts. You become terrified of losing them. Your baseline for happiness rises so high that a simple, peaceful day is no longer enough to satisfy you. To combat this, Seneca advises practicing voluntary discomfort. He tells Lucilius to set aside a few days where he eats only the meagerest, cheapest food, wears rough and uncomfortable clothes, and sleeps on a hard bed. Why would a rich man do this? Seneca explains, the soul needs to be exercised against the misfortunes that are sure to come. We must train for the bad times. If you practice being uncomfortable, you realize two things. First, you realize that your baseline needs are incredibly easy to meet. You don't need much to survive. This destroys your fear of poverty. Second, when you return to your normal, comfortable life, you appreciate it so much more. The simple glass of water tastes like wine after a day of fasting. The soft bed feels like a cloud after sleeping on the floor. Seneca himself lived this. Years before he was wealthy, he was exiled to the island of Corsica by Emperor Claudius. He was stripped of his status, his wealth, and his comfort. He lived in a damp, rocky cave for 8 years. But because he had trained his mind, he survived it with his sanity intact. When he was eventually recalled to Rome and made incredibly wealthy, he didn't lose his mind, because he knew he could survive without it. As he beautifully states, wealth is the slave of a wise man, the master of a fool. This leads to the fourth secret, the power of association and the danger of the crowd. Seneca tells Lucilius that we become like the people we spend the most time with. He warns against the contagion of the masses. In ancient Rome, the ultimate crowd was the Colosseum. Seneca actually attended the gladiatorial games once, and he wrote a letter to Lucilius describing how much he hated it. He said that when he came away from the arena, he found himself more greedy, more ambitious, more luxurious, and even more cruel. The energy of the bloodthirsty crowd had infected him. He realized that no matter how strong you think you are, the crowd will drag you down to their level. Now, translate that to the modern world. The modern Colosseum is the internet. It is social media. It is the comment section. When you spend hours scrolling through Twitter, watching outrage videos, or reading angry comments, you are sitting in the digital Colosseum. And when you put your phone down, you find yourself more anxious, more angry, and more cynical. The energy of the digital crowd has infected you. Seneca's advice is to be ruthless in curating your environment. Limit your exposure to the masses. But he offers an even more profound shortcut: you don't just have to learn from the people alive today. Through reading, you can associate with the greatest minds in human history. When you read the works of Socrates, Plato, or Zeno, you are sitting at their feet. They are available to you at any hour, ready to share their wisdom without jealousy, without ego, and without arrogance. Seneca urges us to read deeply, not widely. Don't skim 100 shallow books, truly internalize a few great ones. Digest them. Let the great minds of the past become your daily companions, and your own mind will expand to meet theirs. Now we must talk about anger. Seneca wrote an entire book on the subject, calling anger a temporary madness. He observed that anger is entirely useless. It does not solve problems, it only creates them. When you are angry, you are essentially drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You hand over the remote control of your emotions to someone else. If they insult you, you get angry. If they cut you off in traffic, you get angry. You have made your inner peace dependent on the behavior of strangers. Seneca's cure for anger is the pause. When you feel the heat rising in your chest, your face flushing, your muscles tensing, do not speak. Do not act. Force a delay between the stimulus and your response. Seneca says that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. In that pause, remind yourself that the person who angered you is likely acting out of their own ignorance, pain, or flawed perspective. As Marcus Aurelius, who was heavily influenced by Seneca, would later write, people who do wrong do so out of ignorance. They are not evil, they are just human. By refusing to let external events dictate your internal state, you build what the Stoics called the inner citadel. Your mind becomes a fortress. Outside events can batter against the walls. People can insult you, the economy can crash, the weather can be terrible. But they cannot breach the gates unless you open them. True freedom is the inability of anyone else to disturb your peace. Finally, we must talk about adversity. In the ancient world, as in our own, bad things happen to good people. And Seneca faced the ultimate adversity. Remember Emperor Nero? The man Seneca advised? As Nero grew older, he grew more paranoid, more cruel, and more tyrannical. Eventually, Nero turned on his old teacher. Seneca was accused of being part of a conspiracy to assassinate the emperor. Nero ordered Seneca to commit suicide. Imagine the ultimate test of your philosophy. The man you taught, the man you served, is now demanding your life. How did Seneca react? Did he scream? Did he beg? Did he curse the heavens? According to the historian Tacitus, Seneca received the order calmly. He asked for his will, and when the centurion refused, he turned to his friends and said, "Since you are denied the chance to leave you my possessions, I leave you the only thing I have left, the pattern of my life." He then calmly prepared to take his own life. He faced the ultimate adversity with a steady hand, proving that his philosophy was not just words on a page, but a lived reality. How did he do it? Because he understood a fundamental law of nature. Difficulties strengthen the mind, just as labor strengthens the body. A gladiator who only fights weak opponents will be destroyed when he finally faces a true champion. Life is the same. If you have never faced hardship, you are fragile. When tragedy strikes, you will break. Seneca teaches us to welcome challenges, not as punishments, but as training. The obstacle is not in the way, the obstacle is the way. Every setback, every failure, every heartbreak is the universe providing you with the exact resistance you need to build a stronger, wiser, and more resilient character. As we conclude this deep exploration of letters from a Stoic, it is vital to understand that Seneca was not a perfect man. He was flawed, he was hypocritical at times, and he struggled with the very human emotions he wrote about. But that is exactly why his letters are so powerful. He was not writing from a mountaintop of perfect enlightenment, he was writing from the trenches of a messy, complicated, and dangerous life. He was using philosophy as a tool to survive. Stoicism is not about suppressing your emotions or becoming a cold, unfeeling robot. It is about clearing away the mental clutter, the irrational fears, and the endless desires that cloud your judgment, so that you can see the world clearly and act with virtue. The ancient secrets of Seneca are not relics of a bygone era. They are the ultimate life hacks for the modern world. In an age of distraction, guard your time. In an age of anxiety, live in the present. In an age of outrage, master your temper. In an age of materialism, practice voluntary discomfort. And in an age of fragility, embrace adversity. Thank you for joining this journey into the mind of Rome's greatest philosopher. If this ancient wisdom resonates with you, if it gives you the tools to build an unbreakable mind in a chaotic world, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, philosophy is not a parlor trick to impress others, it is a medicine for the soul. Go forth, master your time, conquer your imagination, and build your inner citadel. If you enjoyed this book, please let me know in the comments. I'd also love to hear what book you'd like me to summarize next or what type of books you're interested in. Your suggestions help shape this channel, and I'll do my best to bring you the content you want. Thank you for subscribing to Raw Books. Your support means a lot.